Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And to open up the week, not only do we have one of the biggest video game leaks of all time to talk about, this time for Nintendo, but then we also have some exciting Xbox news because they have their own event planned for later this week. So we'll talk about what to expect there because I've already seen some pretty wild predictions online, and even though I think these people might need to temper their expectations a little bit, I still, however, think that this could be a worthwhile event getting excited about, and I'm going to explain why. Let's just go and jump right into things, though, starting off with Refantazio's record-breaking weekend. Metaphore continues to light up the charts as it peaked at nearly 86,000 concurrent players on Steam, which is already Atlus's best opening for the PC platform. And I think this kind of leans into some of the things that I've been preaching on the channel for years. If you're a multi-platform company with a well-established brand, I'm looking at you, Square Enix, it's vital to acclimate that brand across multiple platforms so you can grow even more and build an even better future. Atlus has done a good job at that in the last few years with multiple Persona and Shin Megami Tensei games, and now that the PC user base is acclimated with their brand, you get to see the results here in their first brand new big-time release on the platform. It's not only a big success, but Refantazio is already one of the best openings for a turn-based JRPG on Steam. So my hat's off here to Atlus and Sega. Congrats to them. But definitely for all of you third-party companies out there, this is exactly why it's better to plan for the future by acclimating everybody involved than simply focusing solely on one singular platform. Now, we also got some really cool news here for the Tomb Raider franchise. First off, they announced that Tomb Raider has officially surpassed 100 million copies sold worldwide. So another big congrats is in order. There's very few game franchises that's ever done this. And it also goes to show you exactly why Lara Croft is one of the most well-recognized video game mascots of all time. Though I will say, that's one thing about this announcement that I found to be a little bit forced. What they did is that they decided to use their new version of Lara Croft to highlight this announcement, which to me I think is a little bit strange because this is not the version of Lara Croft that made the franchise so successful in the first place. In reality, this new version of Lara Croft still has yet to prove herself because we've yet to see her in a game. So, I don't know. Most people probably don't think of this as a big deal, but to me, I thought it was disrespectful to the people that came before and worked hard on making the Tomb Raider franchise what it is today. I think they should have highlighted the original Lara Croft to pay them, as well as the history to Tomb Raider, some respect. That's just my opinion. Maybe you feel different, and if you do, let me know in the comments below. But I do have some good news for fans of the original Lara Croft. Earlier this year, of course, we got Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 in a remastered collection, and now next year on February 14th, we'll get 4, 5, and 6 in a new remastered collection. Now, so far, they've only announced a digital version, but if I were to guess, they'll probably team up with Limited Run Games once again to make a physical version. In fact, I'll actually be picking up a physical copy of that first trilogy later this week. And speaking of digital games, California recently made it a law that digital distribution will need to make it clear that consumers are not buying a permanent copy of said product, but instead are only purchasing a digital license. In other words, you don't actually own anything if you buy something digitally. Now, it's not like this is some kind of big surprise for any of us that's been bringing awareness to this for years and years, but gaming companies are now being forced to admit that yes, you're only buying a license. In fact, Steam has now updated their messaging when you purchase a game from their store. It now says, quote unquote, a purchase of a digital product grants a license for the product on Steam. So again, I don't really think that this is some kind of revelation, and for most people, I don't think this is even going to bother them all that much. I'm not really expecting anything to change within the gaming landscape because of this new law. But this is the reality of the situation, and these companies are now being forced to be more upfront about it with their fans. So, if these companies decide to in the future that they no longer want to give us access to the digital content that we purchase, well, technically, yes, they can take it away. And that's something that we've seen a few different times in really just the past 12 months. I remember late last year when Sony and Discovery were stripping their customers away from a lot of TV-related content that they purchased on PlayStation because of some kind of licensing dispute that they were having with Discovery behind closed doors. And hypothetically, let's just kind of say one of these digital stores, in the unlikely chance, shuts down in the future. Do we actually trust said company enough to give us access to all of the digital licenses that we purchased prior to that shutdown? So, this is one of the risks involved with digital distribution. Whereas if you buy a physical product, you don't really have to worry about those things quite as much. I mean, modern physical games aren't exactly perfect either. That's well documented, and digital does have certain perks. But if anything else, I think this is all the more reason that we do need options. Physical games are still important, but let me know what you all think about this in the comments below. Are you team digital or are you team physical? Okay, so Xbox just dropped some rather exciting news. They just announced a partner showcase for October 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can see some of the details here. It reads, "We're thrilled to announce the next Xbox partner preview. Our no-fluff all games broadcast is coming this Thursday, October 17th. And the latest installment will feature a mix of new and upcoming games for you from incredible partners like Remedy Entertainment, Sega, 505 Games, and many more, with over a dozen new trailers over the course of around 25 minutes. During Xbox Partner Preview, you'll get a first look at gameplay from Alan Wake 2's next expansion, The Lake House, an action-packed new trailer for Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, a peek at multiple bosses in dark fantasy action game Wu Chang, Fallen Feathers, multiple world premieres, and other great titles coming to Xbox consoles, Windows PC, and Game Pass." And I think it's that last part that's going to make this showcase exciting. Yes, we are going to get world premieres, which means we are going to see some brand new games for the first time at this showcase, but also the inclusion of Xbox Game Pass games. On one side, I've already seen some fans just kind of immediately hope for different first-party games like Perfect Dark and Fable to be at this event, and hey, that would be awesome and everything, but in reality, you absolutely should not expect those to appear at this showcase. This is a third-party direct, and that definitively means for third-party games only. In fact, they've actually already held 2 partner showcases within the last 12 months, and I'll show you on screen all the games that made an appearance at those events. And you're going to notice, not a single first-party game was at either one of these showcases. But I'll also say that both of those showcases were still a lot of fun, and that there were a lot of really interesting games previewed. You can even see that in the last showcase, they revealed 6 Xbox Game Pass games, including some really good ones like Persona 3 Reload Expansion Pass, Frostpunk 2, and Kumitsugami. So if anything else, if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, or if you just want to see a couple of new games, I think this will be an event you'll absolutely want to keep on your radar. Now, as usual, I'll keep you posted. That's exactly why you're subscribed in the first place. But in the meantime, if there's one publisher that I hope to see at this event, that would be Square Enix. I mean, we know their newfound commitment to being a completely multi-platform company, and I think that's really just all the more reason that they need to make an appearance at these Xbox events. We talked about this just earlier with Atlas, but they need to better acclimate themselves with the platform, and that starts by porting some of their big games that missed Xbox these past 5+ years. Now, they've kickstarted this initiative with games like Octopath Traveler, Final Fantasy XIV, and the Pixel Remastered Collection, and that's a great start. But I know a lot of gamers are still hoping to see the Final Fantasy VII remakes and Final Fantasy XVI. These are the big games that are still missing on the Xbox platform, so I'd like to see one of these 2 at this event, but, who knows? Even though I'm confident that they will eventually happen, even Square Enix themselves have teased that these will eventually come over to Xbox. I mean, how long it takes, that's the big question. It could still be a while longer before we get those ports officially announced. But here's to hoping that it will be sooner rather than later. Now, before we go, we do have a massive Nintendo and Pokemon leak to talk about. And when I say massive, I mean this is truly a monumental leak. This leak is so big that it is still leaking out because of how much information was involved. Somehow, Game Freak suffered a leak that's estimated to be 1 terabyte of data, which includes code names, source code, and just a ton of information for older and newer Pokemon games alike. Now, if you're interested in just every bit of information that's come from this leak, how older games were created, or just stories related to the Pokemon universe made by Game Freak themselves that's never seen the light of day, I'll leave a link in the description below. Central Leaks is the one passing information along over on Twitter, though I will say there are some very bizarre stories involved. You might look at Pokemon in a whole different way. If you've seen something like the Typhlosion story that's being passed around, you might understand what I'm talking about. But the most interesting game-related stuff was summarized, and we'll read it here. You can see that Pokemon Legends ZA was originally planned to release in 2024, and that it was in development for the current Switch. So this means that they, in fact, delayed ZA, which I think is a good sign, if I'm being completely honest. One of Game Freak's biggest problems this generation is that it kind of feels like they're under too much pressure to get these games out in a short period of time. So if anything else, I hope this delay means a better, high-quality final product. But more so, this could also point to a Switch 2 release. Maybe they delayed it to align with the Switch successor, but if that's the case, I assume that it will be a cross-generation game. I mean, we'll see, but it definitely was delayed. Now, we also got some news that Pokemon Gaia is the codename for Generation 10. There, of course, will be two versions, K and N, which are the Japanese codenames. The main theme will be island exploring in an archipelago, and it's in development for the Switch successor, but a version for Switch 1 is also being tested. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be a Switch 1 game, but it does appear that they have tested it, so it is a possibility. If they do make it a cross-generation game, though, I just hope that it performs better than Scarlet and Violet, because that, to me, was one of the biggest disappointments for the current Switch. Like, it's a good game and everything, don't get me wrong, but its performance, in my opinion, is flat out unacceptable. So if I'm being completely honest about things, I'd like to see them focus solely on next generation and just make sure it's a better quality product. If anything else, the Switch successor should give them a little bit more leeway to prevent performance problems like that in the future. Then lastly, they're working on Pokemon Synapse, which is another codename. It's apparently a new multiplayer Pokemon game that's in collaboration between Ilka and Game Freak, and it's being described, check this out, it's being described as Splatoon-like. Now, I can't really picture what this is myself, a Pokemon Splatoon-like game. I mean, as a Pokemon fan, I'm intrigued by this idea, but I just don't know how this will work. I mean, I guess we'll see, but yeah, I mean, it looks like we will have a very busy start for Pokemon to start the Switch 2 generation. I mean, we're already hearing about 3 games, and I'd imagine all of these will be for the Switch 2. I mean, I'm personally excited, especially for ZA. I thought Pokemon Legends Arceus was an amazing game. I'm also very excited to see what Generation 10 is capable of. I hope we see them make progress from what they tried with Scarlet and Violet, because I thought that was a good idea. The performance problems aside, I thought Scarlet and Violet was still a good game, but I'd like to see more improvement on that formula. So here's the hoping to the best. Again, though, if you want to see more from this leak, I'll leave a link in the description below, which also includes information for the anime and also for future movies. I mean, this really is just a massive, massive leak. Anyways, though, that's going to be for this episode, but until next time, subscribe and peace out.